The Ghost Story, The Elder. Author, Jehu. My elder brother is famous for being the kindest in the family. He handed over the steel mill to my second brother and gave my third brother a large piece of land. No matter who is in trouble, just one word and he rushes to help right away. He never argues with anyone, just smiles when he sees someone. Everyone in the family jokes that he is the Bodhisattva incarnate. But for someone as kind as he has a fierce wife. My elder sister-in-law lives in the village next door. Her fate is not good. She has been without parents since she was little. Her only brother also has nothing to do with her. She has a hot temper, a narrow mind, and a long-lasting grudge. She can scold someone for days on end without stopping. No one dares to propose to her. My elder brother is the only one. But my sister-in-law looks down on my elder brother. The first time they met, she directly threw away all the belongings my elder brother brought. She even shouted that if my elder brother dared to marry her, she would make my elder brother's house restless. But my elder brother seemed to be under a spell. He wouldn't marry anyone else but her. No matter how much his family advised against it, he wouldn't give up. Every time he went to see my sister-in-law, he brought a lot of gifts. He even helped with the farming at my sister-in-law's house. After more than half a year passed like that, my sister-in-law's attitude softened a bit, and she agreed to marry my elder brother. The day my elder sister-in-law agreed, my elder brother was so happy he was almost crazy. He almost spent all his savings to make my sister-in-law happy at the wedding. Everyone says once a man achieves something, he will change. But not in my family's case. After marriage, he treated my sister-in-law even better. Our house is opposite my elder brother's house, and sometimes we can hear my sister-in-law cursing. But my elder brother never argues back. Not long after, my sister-in-law became pregnant. Her temper improved a lot, and the cursing diminished. My parents sighed with relief and sent many gifts to my elder brother's house. When they returned, they exclaimed, "Now we can live a good life." But the happiness was short-lived. Half a month later, we heard that my eldest sister-in-law had given birth to a stillborn child. She cried until she was exhausted. Then her crying turned into cursing. From then on, my sister-in-law's temperament worsened day by day. My parents didn't dare to take a step into my elder brother's house. Sometime later, my sister-in-law fell ill due to heartache. Everyone said she was dying. Everyone in the family secretly rejoiced. My impression of my elder sister-in-law was when she got married to my elder brother. Tall and rough-looking, with a cold face, she looked very intimidating. But would my sister-in-law really die? Out of curiosity, I sneaked over to my elder brother's house to see. Carefully opening a crack in the door, I peeked through it. My sister-in-law, once big and now thin as a handful of bones, lay pale and motionless on the bed. She seemed as if she were already dead. The smell of medicine mixed with the stench hit me. I couldn't help but gasp. Suddenly, my sister-in-law opened her eyes. Her eyes fixed on me. That gaze made me feel strangely familiar, inexplicably so. But in an instant, her gaze turned fierce. "Damn it, you..." Her curses were extremely harsh. I was so scared that I hurriedly ran away. At that moment, I also had the same thought as the adults in the house. For someone as terrible as my sister-in-law, it would be better if she died early. But, as if in a TV drama, the disaster was left behind after thousands of years. After my sister-in-law fell ill, my elder brother not only didn't abandon her, but also took her to town for treatment, giving her a lot of traditional medicine. Yet my sister-in-law still survived. After my sister-in-law recovered, her temper became even worse. She cursed at relatives, mocked them, called them names. My father and my elder brother used to have a very good relationship, but not anymore. Until one incident happened later. I passed the university entrance exam. But before that, my father had been seriously ill for a while, so my family had almost spent all our money on his treatment. Therefore, tuition fees became a difficult issue. My father borrowed money from relatives everywhere. In recent years, relatives of my father have all faced difficulties, some more, some less. Our family is not wealthy, and the relationship between relatives and my mother is not very good either. So, even though we borrowed money from many houses, it was still not enough to pay tuition fees. Dad, the teacher said we could apply for student loans. Right at that moment, my elder brother came to the door, and he brought a thick stack of money. This money is for Nom Nom's tuition fees. My elder brother said he had earned some money outside in recent years. Most of the money was given to my sister-in-law, but my elder brother also kept a little for himself. My elder brother is a kind person. Good people are always rewarded, and they always encounter luck. That year, my elder brother spent all his money on my sister-in-law's treatment. Later, he earned more than that amount again. Now, these 10,000 yuan really meant nothing to him. My father hesitated to accept money from my sister-in-law. He didn't want to take this money even if she died. "Uncle, you are my elder brother. If you act like this, do you want to cut off ties with me?" My elder brother said that, so in the end, my father had to accept 10,000 yuan. But he insisted on writing an IOU to my elder brother. My elder brother said happily, "All right." Then my elder brother looked at me affectionately. "Nam Nam has a bright future," he said. His gaze was extremely affectionate, but for some reason, I felt a bit uncomfortable. This 10,000 yuan was my elder brother's personal money. He lent it to my family without my sister-in-law knowing anything about it. But somehow my sister-in-law found out. She stormed into our house, cursing. She cursed my parents as ungrateful demons. And she cursed me. "Hold on to this money and watch your back." While my sister-in-law was cursing, my parents remained silent. But when she cursed me, my mother couldn't bear it. "Nam Nam is still a child. Do you need to be so cruel and cursing a child?" My mother was so angry that she fought with my sister-in-law. My elder brother quickly ran over. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't pull my sister-in-law away. My elder brother, furious, slapped my sister-in-law in the face. "Nam Nam is my blood. It's good for him to go to university. That 10,000 is for him." In that moment, my elder brother seemed to transform into a completely different person. His eyes were fierce and red, no longer the gentle elder brother I knew. But no one felt okay. They only felt sorry for my elder brother for having such a crazy wife. My elder brother dragged my sister-in-law away, and my father chased after them with the 10,000 yuan. When they returned, my father still had that 10,000 in his hand. My mother angrily pinched his ear. "I told you to give it back to your elder brother, didn't I? If not, that crazy woman will come back to cause trouble." My father was also helpless. My elder brother's mood is not good. He said if I give the money back to him, he will die. At this point, my parents were very helpless. They could only hold on to the 10,000 yuan for now. I mean, how could such a good person like my elder brother marry such a crazy wife? It's like being cursed. My mother couldn't help but feel frustrated. Then my father tried to return the money to my elder brother, but every time he mentioned it, my elder brother became extremely agitated. Once, he even hit his head until it bled. Given that your elder brother's attitude is so firm and your sister-in-law hasn't said anything, pay Nam Nam's tuition fees first, and when you sell the rice, you can repay your elder brother later. So I had 10,000 to go to university. After paying tuition and rent, I had over 3,000 left, just enough for a few months' living expenses. I was eagerly looking forward to university life. But since the day I enrolled, I felt that something was off. I became incredibly unlucky. I slipped on the stairs carelessly. During military training, I accidentally fell from a height. Within a few short days, so many incidents happened one after another. Even my roommates couldn't help but discuss whether I was really unlucky or not. And that was just the beginning. One day, as I was walking to school, a car rushed towards me and hit me directly. The impact sent me to the hospital, where I remained unconscious for 2 days, almost losing my life. I survived, but both my legs were broken. The doctor said it would take at least a year to recover, so my parents decided to temporarily suspend my studies and take me back to the countryside. Son, watch this surveillance video near the accident site. Something doesn't seem right. Our Nam Nam was clearly walking on the pedestrian path, and that car suddenly swerved and hit him, as if possessed by a demon. Didn't the police say that the driver had issues with his steering? Stop making baseless guesses. Do you remember when your sister-in-law cursed Nam Nam? Wasn't she abnormal back then? The whole village said she was doomed. No one dared to come near her. My parents deliberately lowered their voices, but I still heard. Since I paid the tuition fees, nothing went smoothly. Could it really be because of my sister-in-law's curse? After returning to the countryside, my spirit plummeted. The joyful university life came to a halt, and the prolonged pain from my broken leg made it worse. So I resented my cruel sister-in-law even more. Then something extremely bizarre happened. Because of the excruciating pain in my leg, I often couldn't sleep at night. One sunny day, I suddenly fell asleep. When I woke up, it was raining continuously. It was eerily quiet. And then I discovered something terrifying. I was lying in a coffin. I struggled to get out, but it felt like something weighing thousands of pounds was pressing down on my legs. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't escape. Suddenly, a figure appeared and lifted my leg. Instantly, my leg regained movement. I hurriedly crawled out of the coffin, not daring to stop. Nam Nam! My mother cried out, trying to wake me up. I abruptly opened my eyes, realizing that I was leaning dangerously close to the well, with my head almost hanging over it. It was just a hair's breadth away from falling in. This incident terrified both me and my parents. Nam Nam, with both your legs broken, how did you manage to crawl so close to the well? There must be something wrong. They felt I was contaminated by something unclean clinging to me. They immediately called Uncle Sal, who was highly respected in the village, to come and check on me. Uncle Sal stared at me for a long time, unable to explain the cause. It doesn't seem like contamination by any filth. Uncle Sal, do you think Nam Nam was cursed? My mother told Uncle Sal about my sister-in-law's curse. Uncle Sal pondered for a moment. It's possible. Uncle Sal then recounted some old stories. There was once a man who had an affair and brought the woman home. His wife, angry and resentful, cursed them to drown. 2 weeks later, the man and his mistress slipped and fell into the rising river. My mother turned pale with fear after hearing this. First, a traffic accident, now nearly falling down the well. If it happens again, will Nam Nam survive? My mother's face grew increasingly distressed as she spoke. She knelt before Uncle Sal, begging, "Uncle Sal, please save Nam Nam. We need to bring your sister-in-law here. If she's the one harming Nam Nam, only she can save him." My parents had severed ties with my brother-in-law long ago, but for my sake, my father gritted his teeth and decided to find him. My elder brother had bought a house in the city and had moved there with my brother-in-law a few days before, so finding them wasn't easy. Thankfully, we had phones, which made it possible to explain everything with just one call. Not long after, my father made the call and returned with a gloomy, despondent look. "Dad, what did elder brother say?" My mother hurriedly asked. "Elder brother said he hasn't seen your sister-in-law anywhere." My mother's face turned pale. In the following days, my parents took turns watching over me, fearing something might happen to me. At the same time, they anxiously awaited news from my elder brother. One day, 2 days. All the awaited news was bad. Seeing my mother's exhausted face made me uncomfortable. "Mom, I'm fine. You should take a rest," I said. But my mother shook her head, her eyes reddening as she hugged me and burst into tears. My parents stayed up until midnight when suddenly my mother fainted. No matter how my father shook her, she wouldn't wake up. "Dad, take Mom to the hospital quickly," I urged. My father looked at me with concern. "I'll lock the door. Nothing will happen." He glanced at my unconscious mother and thrust the phone into my hand. "Call me if anything happens." With that, he carried my mother out. Outside, the wind began to blow strongly. I felt a bit uneasy and huddled under the blanket. I kept convincing myself to sleep, just sleep, and when I woke up, it would be morning. Under this self-hypnosis, I eventually drifted off. When I opened my eyes again, it was still midnight. Outside, it was pitch black, with no sound of wind, eerily quiet. Just as I thought I was haunted like that day, suddenly there was a knocking at the door. "Nam Nam, open the door. It's your cousin. Aunt Tu said she's here to look after you." I breathed a sigh of relief. My bed was near the door, and I could easily unlock it with a reach of my hand. I was about to open it when something felt off. The voice sounded hoarse, nothing like my cousin's. Besides, wasn't my cousin working in the South? I quickly withdrew my hand, feeling goosebumps all over. Before I could even breathe a sigh of relief, the window suddenly flew open. I turned and saw a head poking in through the window. Disheveled hair, a grotesque face, huge eyes. At first glance, it was incredibly terrifying. It was my brother-in-law, the one who had been missing for so long, according to my elder brother. I wanted to grab the mobile phone on the bedside table to call my father, but I found the phone had disappeared. By now, my brother-in-law had crawled in through the window, and with my broken leg, I couldn't move. All I could do was scream for help. My brother-in-law quickly stepped forward and covered my mouth tightly. Was he trying to suffocate me? I struggled in desperation. "Nam Nam, don't shout, I'm here to save you," my brother-in-law hurriedly said, trying to calm me. Save me? I was dumbfounded. In my impression, my brother-in-law was always cruel and malicious, entirely a villain. He was like the antagonists in TV dramas, making everyone laugh after their demise. My brother-in-law said he wanted to save me. "You've been cursed by your elder brother, Nam Nam. You don't have much time left," he explained urgently. In that moment, I found it incredibly hard to believe. What was my brother-in-law saying? The kind-hearted elder brother in my heart, the gentle person in everyone else's eyes, was actually harming me? Think about it. Have you noticed that all the relatives of our family, after receiving help from your elder brother, have encountered misfortune? Actually, he didn't really help them. He just borrowed their luck. I started to rethink everything. After my elder brother handed over the steel mill to my second brother, his wife immediately had a miscarriage. The child they adopted also had an accident. Until now, they still haven't had a child. The money they earned was mostly spent on finding a child. My parents often lamented the hardships they faced. And my third uncle, After my elder brother gave him a piece of land, he immediately fell seriously ill. The third sister-in-law couldn't bear it and ran away with someone else. Other relatives, whether distant or close, all received help from my elder brother, and their lives were not without struggles. Actually, I always had doubts. Like the time when my elder brother-in-law fell ill, I secretly went to see him. His eyes were very familiar, like the eyes of an injured dog that I once picked up. It was a pleading look, and the handprint on his face. All of it made me feel that the elder brother I knew was not the same as he appeared to be. I had some trust in my elder brother-in-law. So, the 10,000 he gave me was also to borrow my luck? I asked. The expression on my elder brother-in-law's face was extremely serious. Not to borrow luck, this time it's to borrow life. I was completely stunned. Borrowing life? What did that mean? A few months ago, he was diagnosed with liver cancer. The doctor said he only had about a year left to live. What he wants to borrow is your lifespan. So, those other relatives will just encounter misfortunes, but you will die. I felt a chill run down my spine, drenching me in sweat. Elder brother-in-law, I don't want to die. What should I do? My elder brother-in-law handed me a bag. When I was seriously ill and almost dying, I met a kind person who gave me this bag. Now I'm giving it to you. I took the warm fabric bag from my elder brother-in-law. I saw it as a lifebuoy, holding it tightly in the palm of my hand. Your elder brother wants you to die soon, because the sooner you die, the longer his lifespan he can steal back. You've avoided several unexpected accidents, so he can't wait any longer. He might go after you, so stay away from him. My elder brother-in-law continued to advise. I nodded, remembering his words carefully. Just as my elder brother-in-law finished speaking, there was a sudden knock on the door. Nam Nam, have you seen your elder brother-in-law? Someone said they saw your elder brother-in-law coming to the village. If you meet her, you must let your brother know. She will harm you. The voice was extremely anxious and urgent, making me shudder. It was the voice of the eldest brother. My elder brother-in-law and I looked at each other, and fear filled our eyes. Nam Nam, are you in there? If you are, quickly open the door for me. Your elder sister-in-law is here to harm you. The voice of the eldest brother grew louder, and the knocking on the door became stronger. Suddenly, the knocking stopped, but before I could breathe a sigh of relief, I heard footsteps. The eldest brother changed direction, walking from the main door to the window. In the next moment, the head of the eldest brother would appear at the window. There was a fierce determination in my elder brother-in-law's eyes. Nam Nam, hide carefully. Absolutely don't make a sound. My elder brother-in-law whispered and then stood up, unlocked the door, and stepped outside. Well done, this wicked woman is definitely in here. The malicious voice of the eldest brother echoed. It was completely different from his usual gentle and warm tone. You vile woman, where is Nam Nam? The eldest brother seemed about to rush into the room. You stinking woman, why are you clinging to me? Want to die? The eldest brother's voice became increasingly angry. Thud. First, there was the sound of a slap. Then came the sounds of beating and agonizing groans. You damned woman! You dare to hit me! Today I will beat you to death! Through the gap, I could see the two figures fighting. Seeing this, I couldn't help but tremble with fear. Suddenly, one person fell down, motionless as if dead. It was the eldest brother. Please, don't let anything happen to him. The eldest brother ran into my room. I tried to keep my mouth shut, afraid of making a sound. Suddenly, the eldest brother lay motionless and reached out to pull the elder brother-in-law towards him. The two started fighting again. I don't know how long it lasted, but for me, time passed agonizingly slowly. Both of them fell down and lay still on the ground. I risked finding the phone, finally finding it under the bed. Trembling, I called my father. It wasn't until morning that my father returned home. There was also the village head, my second brother, and several others. They took the eldest brother and elder brother-in-law away. Surely this crazy woman has beaten our elder brother into this pitiful state. What kind of karma did the eldest brother create to marry such a crazy woman? Quickly take him to the hospital. I hope the eldest brother is okay. No, it can't be like this. Both the eldest brother and elder brother-in-law were carried away. My father rushed into the room. "Nam Nam, are you okay?" Seeing that I was fine, my father breathed a sigh of relief. I shook my head. "Dad, you must save elder brother-in-law," I pleaded. My father and the others were extremely surprised. I recounted the events of last night. The eldest brother wanted to harm me, and the elder brother-in-law risked his life to save me. But no one believed what I said. It's impossible. The eldest brother is a good person. The one who wants to harm you is the elder brother-in-law. Nam Nam, did the elder brother-in-law give you anything to make you go crazy? No one believed me. Everyone believed that the eldest brother was a good person, and the bad person was the elder brother-in-law. I remained silent, clutching tightly to the cloth bag that the elder brother-in-law gave me. By evening, my father asked the second brother to pick up my mother. The doctor said my mother was just physically weak, nothing serious. I breathed a sigh of relief. "Dad, what about the eldest brother and elder brother-in-law in the hospital?" "They are still in a coma and haven't woken up." My father sighed. In the morning, because there were people outside, I didn't tell the whole story of what happened last night. Now, with only my parents at home, I told them about the elder brother borrowing life from me as the elder brother-in-law told me. My parents were extremely shocked. The eldest brother has liver cancer? The eldest brother borrowed life from Nam Nam? My father hurriedly called the hospital. After hanging up the phone, he remained silent. The doctor has tested the eldest brother. Indeed, he has liver cancer. Now my mother began to believe what the elder brother-in-law said, only my father still couldn't accept it. My mother said, "I'll call Uncle Sal." Shortly after, my mother called Uncle Sal. "Uncle Sal, can you see if Nam Nam's life is being borrowed by someone?" My mother asked cautiously. Uncle Sal stared at me for a long time. "It's possible." It seemed like Uncle Sal was sinking into memories. Decades ago, there was an old man in the village who was very old, but he didn't die for a long time. However, that old man treated a child extremely well. When that child slipped and fell into the water, the old man lived for another 20 years. My mother's face turned pale. "Uncle Sal, what should we do now?" Uncle Sal pondered for a moment. "Bring your whole family here to ask for clarification." I found Uncle Sal's words somewhat familiar. Previously, my mother said that the elder brother-in-law cursed me, and he explained something similar. Perhaps Uncle Sal had no way to deal with curses or borrowed lives. My heart sank, and I had to hold the cloth bag tightly inside me. I stayed at home in fear and anxiety for 2 days. During that time, the eldest brother and elder brother-in-law still hadn't woken up. "Nam Nam, how do you feel? Is there anything wrong?" My mother asked anxiously. I shook my head. Actually, something strange happened last night. In the quiet night, I heard footsteps outside the door. I glanced outside and glimpsed a figure, like that of a child. Suddenly, the child peered in through the crack in the door. I was so scared that I curled up on the bed, covering my face with a blanket. I don't know how long it took, but when I peeked out, I didn't see that little figure anymore. I saw my parents were exhausted, so I didn't tell them about this. They always had to stay close to me. Moreover, there was no solution yet. If I told them, it would only make them worry and stick to me all day. Now I was a little scared of the dark, but night would always come. I couldn't sleep, and by midnight I heard footsteps again. I raised my head, looked outside, and almost lost my mind. I caught sight of a pair of small, sinister black eyes, looking incredibly wicked and curious. My body froze, unable to move. Time passed painfully, sweat constantly pouring out, and I even dared not breathe heavily. After a very long time, those eyes finally disappeared. I felt like I had come back to life, enduring such misery for days. For several days, nothing happened to me, and my parents breathed a sigh of relief. At dusk, hearing news from the hospital, the eldest brother had woken up. My parents' emotions were extremely complicated, but the matter of me borrowing life could only be resolved by the eldest brother alone. My father went to see the eldest brother. After finishing dinner, my mother helped me wash my face and then hurriedly followed. I felt a bit cold, intending to close the door when the door closed by itself. The whole room suddenly became pitch black. I suddenly felt it was harder to breathe. Water entered my nose and mouth, and then I realized I was under the river. It was the river at the entrance of the village. When I was a child, my cousin often took me here to swim. I wasn't careful and almost drowned. The sensation now was just like when I nearly drowned as a child. But I knew how to swim now, no longer panicked like when I was little and just learning to swim. I tried to calm down. Then I attempted to float up. That's when I realized my foot was caught on something. Looking down, I saw a child grasping my foot. The child was very small, curled up like a newborn, but its eyes were as dark as ink, as if there were no whites to them, like the eyes of the child that followed me every night. In that moment, I was both amazed and terrified, kicking my foot in an attempt to kick the child away. Eventually, the pulling force on my foot disappeared. I struggled to swim up, but the child kept clinging to me. I didn't know how long I swam, but eventually I managed to reach the riverbank. Thank goodness, I was saved. Nam nam, I opened my eyes to see my mother's horrified face. I was back in the old room. My face was wet, the wash basin had fallen to the ground. My mind was confused, feeling somewhat numb. What on earth was happening? My mother said when she entered the room, she saw me burying my face in the wash basin. She was horrified and tried to lift me up. Luckily, I splashed water on myself and sat up. In that moment, my eyes were wide open as if possessed. Your eldest brother woke up, so he wants your life again. It must be true. My mother muttered, always cursing the eldest brother. After cursing, she hugged me and burst into tears. A moment later, my father took the eldest brother home. I looked at the always cheerful face of the eldest brother, now swollen and terrifying. I retreated behind my mother, frightened. The eldest brother's eyes were bloodshot. Nom nom, it's all because of him. He's harming you. After saying that, the eldest brother even hit himself a few times. My mother asked very seriously, "Eldest brother, did you borrow Nom Nam's life?" The eldest brother's expression was confused. Borrow life? What are you talking about? Then why did you say you harmed Nom Nam? The eldest brother sighed. It's all because I married that calamity home. Nom Nam, do you always feel like there's a child clinging to you? The eldest brother looked straight at me and asked. I was startled. I hadn't even told my parents about this. So how did the eldest brother know? The eldest brother sighed again. He said initially when he married the eldest sister-in-law, he truly wanted to live happily with her. She has no parents and is at odds with her own brother. I saw her as a pitiful person. Besides, although she may be a bit fierce, she's talented, and your mother has a decent personality, so I thought we could get along. At first, when she caused trouble, I tolerated it. Then she got pregnant, her behavior started to change for the better, and I thought it would finally be better. Who would have known that she would give birth to a stillborn child? After that, she wasn't normal anymore, kept saying I killed the child. How could I harm my own child? Later on, she said there was a method that could bring the child back to life. For more than 10 years, she's done countless strange things, claiming she wants to revive the child. Some time ago, she said there was an extremely reliable method, which is to exchange lives, using a healthy person's life to exchange for the child's life. The eldest brother spoke, then looked at me. Nom nom, did your eldest sister-in-law give you anything strange? The mirror reflected my pale face. The cloth bag the eldest sister-in-law gave me was in my pocket. Whenever something strange happened, I would clutch this bag tightly. That way, I wouldn't feel afraid anymore. But this time, I felt it burning, quickly pulling my hand back. I bowed my head in silence. There are footprints of a child outside the door, the eldest brother said. She's about to succeed. Did your eldest sister-in-law give you anything that night? My mother hurriedly asked. Only then did I take the cloth bag out of my pocket. The eldest brother almost snatched the bag, his face becoming extremely unpleasant. He tore the bag open. Inside was another small cloth bag. Layer after layer, inside was a clump of hair. This is the child's blood hair. The eldest brother's voice was cold. So that's it. Since the eldest sister-in-law gave me this bag, that child started lurking around me. Just now, it wanted to drown me to completely take my life. I recounted all the events of the past few nights for everyone to hear. That damned woman! I heard the eldest brother couldn't help but curse loudly. She is truly wicked, wanting to harm Nam Nam. What? What should we do about this? Is there any way to save Nam Nam? My parents pleaded simultaneously, looking towards the eldest brother. The eldest brother remained silent for a while before speaking. There is a way. My parents immediately breathed a sigh of relief. What should we do? Uncle Two, do you remember when you followed the carpenter to learn carpentry when you were a child? You learned a few other things by following the carpenter. To undo this, we need to find the bell ringer. This requires assistance from that witch. We'll have to wait for her to wake up, then I'll have a plan. Following that, my parents and I all eagerly awaited the awakening of the eldest sister-in-law. Luckily, the hospital reported the next day that the eldest sister-in-law had woken up. My parents immediately went to pick her up. The eldest sister-in-law seemed dazed, with a slightly slow reflex. But as soon as my parents thought about what the eldest sister-in-law had done, they couldn't sympathize with her. My parents prepared everything as requested by the eldest brother. Incense, ashes, glutinous rice. First, the eldest brother lit incense in the four corners of the house, then scattered glutinous rice on the ground. Next was for me and the eldest sister-in-law to sit in the middle. The eldest sister-in-law was tied to a chair. After a while, it seemed like she sensed something, so she started to struggle fiercely. The eldest brother forced the eldest sister-in-law to drink some kind of potion. Then the eldest sister-in-law fell asleep. The eldest brother sat there, quietly waiting, then poured some liquid from the jar. The eldest brother added incense ashes, and even my and the eldest sister-in-law's blood, mixing it into a strange liquid with the smell of fresh blood. The eldest brother handed me that cup of potion and said softly, "Nom nom, drink it, everything will be fine." I took the cup, trying to suppress the urge to vomit, and drank it all. It's okay, everything is fine now." The eldest brother seemed very happy and spoke with a smile. I also breathed a sigh of relief. Me? Will I no longer be haunted by the ghost of that child? No need to worry all the time? I was very happy and wanted to call my parents. But the next moment, my throat suddenly tightened. I turned around in difficulty, facing a sinister face. "Eldest brother, the ghost of that child is gone now. This time it's fine. No one will take my life anymore. Your life must belong to me alone." The eldest brother spoke solemnly, his hand squeezing my neck tighter and tighter. The feeling of suffocation mixed with the chilling cold engulfed me. So the eldest sister-in-law was right. From start to finish, it was the eldest brother who wanted my life. The 10,000 yuan was indeed the price for a life. Bang! Before losing consciousness completely, I heard a loud echo. Before slipping into unconsciousness, I caught a glimpse of the face of the eldest brother-in-law. He was smiling. I tried to muster a smile myself. I don't know if it resembled a smile anymore. The next day, when the eldest brother woke up, he found a stack of money at the head of the bed. The eldest brother counted each bill, just 10,000 yuan. He let go, and the 10,000 yuan scattered on the floor. He suddenly burst into tears. Several days later, the eldest brother passed away, died of liver cancer. 7 months later, I and the eldest sister-in-law went to the tomb for the eldest brother. I looked at the eldest sister-in-law sincerely and said, "Thank you, sis." Not long ago, on that desperate night, the eldest sister-in-law found me. She not only gave me a bag, but also told me something. That bag could only temporarily protect my life. To solve this thoroughly, only the eldest brother knew the best way. But how could I help myself when the eldest brother wanted my life? So the eldest sister-in-law and I staged a play together, making the eldest brother feel that the eldest sister-in-law also wanted to exchange lives with me. That child wasn't lurking around me, but was protecting me. When I almost drowned in the river, what was entangled in my leg was actually seaweed, and that child helped me untangle it. The eldest sister-in-law canceled the deal to exchange lives with the eldest brother to help me. Luckily, we succeeded. The eldest sister-in-law touched her belly. Her belly had protruded. I gently touched that protruding part of her belly, feeling familiar. The eldest sister-in-law stared at the tombstone of the eldest brother, smiling gently. "Dai Vuong, our child is coming back." Epilogue of the eldest sister-in-law. Everyone said I had a sinister fate, but in fact, my fate was very good. My parents concealed my date of birth and delivery, but in the end, those with good intentions would always find out. So my parents always advised me not to trust anyone too much. I wasn't close to anyone. People said I had a strange personality, a nasty witch. But Dai Vuong from the neighboring village was an exception. He came to see me, didn't get angry when I threw things away, and came again a few days later. I gradually paid attention to him. People often said he was honest, simple, very suitable for marriage. Indeed, for many years I had been lonely, so I felt lonely. I also wanted someone to share everything with. Moreover, there were many gossips. Finally, I was moved, agreed to marry him. We got married. He treated me very well. Not long after, I became pregnant. And during this time, I discovered something, that the people Dai Vuong helped, few or many, often encountered misfortunes. I thought it was a coincidence. It wasn't until one time he talked in his sleep that I found out he was actually borrowing luck. At that moment, I suddenly thought of something terrifying. Could it be that he treats me well because he discovered that my fate is extremely good and he wants to borrow my luck? No, we are husband and wife, so he treats me well. At that time, I still deceived myself and others. It wasn't until I had a miscarriage that I completely woke up from the dream. He had stolen my luck, and even though I was pregnant, he didn't stop. In front of outsiders, he treated me very well, but behind closed doors, he would scold and beat me, telling me not to ruin his good fortune. I tried to seek help, but no one could save me. Daivuong stole my luck, so he couldn't bear to let me die. In that case, I wouldn't let him harm anyone else. Perhaps it was for revenge. Perhaps it was because I didn't want him to harm others, so my temper became worse and worse. It seemed like I cut off all ties with his close relatives. As time passed, Daivuong became luckier and luckier. I looked at Daivuong and suddenly had greedy thoughts. Then one day, I heard that his cousin's daughter had been admitted to a university. "Your cousin has a very smart daughter," Daivuong exclaimed, with a very greedy look in his eyes. In my mind, a cute face suddenly appeared. If my child grows up, they might look like that too, right? I couldn't let Daivuong harm this child. But no matter how many precautions I took, I couldn't stop Daivuong from giving 10,000 yuan to his cousin's family to pay for his daughter's tuition. I caused trouble once, but failed. Daivuong dragged me back home and scolded me. Then he took me to the city and locked me up there. It wasn't until later that he relaxed his guard against me. So I climbed out of the window and tried every way to escape back to my hometown. Luckily, it wasn't too late for everything to be resolved. End.